Okay, so today in this video, the topic is nature versus nurture. Um, and okay, actually, I'm not exactly okay. So this is the thing, right? So, my friend actually asked me, texted me this question. So thank you to Nate Williford for this question. There's at least one man interested in hearing me talk about something. So thank you to Nate for this topic. I'm not 100% sure I understand what he wants from me with this question, but I'm going to try my best. Essentially, it was related from the last video, and he was asking about. So I talked about some differences with me being like a brown man. I called it like brown man or brown boy. Maybe a little bit like politically incorrect for some people, but yeah. So I talked about that, and he wanted to know. He wanted me to elaborate a little bit more on that. I think so. I think the first part of his question was how much of that comes from just me so he said nature versus nurture, right? So nature is what? So me just being born like genetically with something, and then versus the environment I grew up in. Well, okay, so the first, take that if I answer that question in the way that I perceived it first, it would be it would be racist for me to say anything in support of the nature side, right? Because, well, I mean, we're race is just like a social thing, right? It's just a social thing, mostly, right? Mostly. Obviously, there's some slight physical differences in like blood chemistry or something, right? People of certain ethnic groups or whatever are more just exposed or susceptible to certain things, or like my skin color, like in the winter time in these latitudes, more I have to be more proactive about getting enough vitamin D3 compared to someone with a lighter skin color than me, right? So that's just, I mean, that's just the way it is, right? But in terms of like a more like deeper like intrinsic thing, it should have no imperativeness, right? No importance, because we're all human, right? On the inside, we're all human, and if you really get to know any human or any person first, okay, someone starts out as a person or as a member of society, and then once you go deeper, then you can see that, okay, this is a human being and they're very unique, and all that stuff is just more like surface level thing, right? So that's kind of the way I've always seen it. I never thought like in my mind, oh, I have to not be racist. I have to not be racist, or I have to not do this or that. I feel like if you just see something like deeper or more profound within someone, then that just comes naturally. But so yeah, so to answer that in another way as well, I think so if you look at like a lot of Asian kids that are adopted into like typical like American white families, they pretty much are like American white kids in terms of like their culture and their mannerisms and everything, right? They are like very similar, like in the way they act. So mainly, whenever I said that, I was mainly talking about like my parents and my like family life, that influence on me, right? Not anything to do with like actually like something that comes directly just from my genetics, right? So mainly, yeah, whenever I say like being a brown boy or being a brown man, I just mean like my family, essentially, like that influence on me. And yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely an influence, right? I think, okay, maybe, you know, it's some more extreme liberal people like in college, in my age group, would almost like to even debate that it's wrong to even recognize cultural differences between people, and I think that's just silly. That's just silly. um, there's nothing wrong with like recognizing the differences you have with other people culturally or socially, as long as you just see like that's just a cultural or social difference. Like you're still human beings and you can still connect and everything, right? So you don't have to say, oh, I'm colorblind, oh, what? You're white, you're Hispanic? I don't even see the difference. That's just silly, right? That's just silly. So yeah, so I think yeah, it's basically all like nurture. Basically all that stuff I was talking about, being a brown man, being a brown boy, essentially is because of my parents, because of my family and the way I was brought up at home. And honestly, like, to even further support that fact, that I'm not saying like, oh, because my skin color, this is why I am that way. To even more support that point that I'm trying to make, as a kid, I automatically assumed everyone else at home was like me, right? I didn't even think anyone else at home was different. I didn't think much about like, oh, I'm like the only one that eats Sri Lankan food at home. I didn't think about any of those things. I automatically just assumed other people had like the same life at home that I did, right? And only after I, learned, oh, like they celebrate Christmas and they do all this and that, I was like, oh, okay. So there's something more to this, right? There's something more to this. So I had that certain level of innocence, right, that kids do, that you don't even see those things. You think like everyone is just like you, or they all just have, you compare everyone's experiences to yours, right? So yeah, I think that's that answered. Honestly, I don't even know like if there's much else I have to say. I think I'm going to look at the message again. Um, but yeah, thank you to Nate. Thank you so much to Nate for asking the question. I hope he can see this. And please, I mean, I'm sure I didn't answer your question. I'm sure I didn't answer it properly. I'm sorry about that. But please text me like follow-up questions. And I would love to answer it, because you are the only man who is interested in hearing me talk about something right now. So thank you so much, Nate. And he's a childhood friend, right? I've known Nate since we were very small, next door neighbors, right? So yeah, very much appreciate him. Thank you to Nate. Thank you to Nate for the question. I hope this video is at least entertaining. Honestly, like, I feel like it's just going to be entertaining to laugh at at this point. But yeah, thank you for watching regardless, for whatever reason. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.